You know, it sounds kind of cliche, but it's by far the best job in the world. It's one that'll tire you out, it'll exhaust you, mentally just drain you. But at the end of the day, I mean, it sounds so silly, but it's literally the best thing in my life. It was one of those things while growing up, I didn't really have a lot of direction. And I don't know if that's because I'm a Gen X kid or not, but once I had my son, it's like everything just suddenly came in perspective. Life, me, everything. And it's by far the best thing in my life. Well, it's one of those things. I first started out with my son. I had like a little moleskin sketchbook, and that became his baby book. And I would like, as a baby, he would just like lie there. So he was a perfect subject to draw. So I did that, and then when he started moving around too much, I wrote him a book of poetry with some illustrations in it. And as he got older, I was thinking to myself, what is there next for me to do for him? And I was an illustrator for a local publishing company, and I was doing some cartooning, and I was like, wait a minute, what if I do a comic strip for him and me? And literally, I just thought about doing it, just like maybe like do about 50 of them, you know, print them up, give it to him as a gift. But it turned out to be like something a little bit more. And I've been doing it for 8 years now, and I never thought that 8 years later I'd still be doing it and having him and my wife be like my best audience members. One of the best things in the world is when I get done with a comic and he's like one of the first ones to see it, you know, and seeing his reaction. Yeah, well, you know, and that actually comes up a really interesting subject because in the comic, Newell, who's based off of my son, is perpetually 5 years old. And it was one of those things as he was growing up, I kind of asked him, I said, hey, are you comfortable with Newell, your character, being the same age? And he was like, fine, that's really fun. I really like that. You know, and it was one of those things where I never want him, especially with something like this, to feel a little angst, kind of like Christopher Robin did with Winnie the Pooh. I know as he got older, he kind of resented the stories that his dad wrote about him as a kid. So I'm really conscious about his take and his experiences and everything. Exactly. You know, there is a personal respect that I have for my son, and that's one of the things. Like the very early comics, very personal, and not that they're embarrassing by any means, but it's definitely like ripped straight from our lives. And as a few, let's say like a dozen comics went up, I was like, you know, this is a little bit too personal, and if people are going to be reading these, you know, I want a distance between the two. So it's kind of like when you see a movie and it says based off of a true story. You know, it's loosely based. You know, and that's the thing. You can't stop them from growing up, just like how you can't stop yourself from progressing into a different person, you know, in life. And I think the important thing is to realize that, especially in the teenage years, you got to ride that wave with them because they don't know where they're going. And you can offer your suggestions and help and guidance, but you can't make them be a certain person, you know, and you just have to ride the wave with them through ups and downs and be there for them with questions and answers, and you know, just to hear them sometimes is one of the most important things.